Good morning. It's 4:30 a.m. where I am. I've been laying awake with words wanting to get out of me, and as a rule, after I got activated 5 years ago, my brain was turned on, and I started taking my tablet to bed with me because I'd wake up in the night and have these incredible connections that I knew I wouldn't remember in the morning. So I would send myself an email and read it in the morning, and I was blown away sometimes by, was that me thinking that? That's like the stuff that I tune into of the teachers on YouTube. And it was great in the morning or in the middle of the night, but by morning, then the ego starts to rise up and override those. And that's why I was surprised that it was me thinking those thoughts, because it was during my dream time. We go to process impurity. We're processing this journey from a place of not the ego that's happening during the day. So anyway, I started sending myself these emails, and it's been kicking in big time again for the last 6 months. Last night I had words that were pressing at me, so I wrote a big long email and thought, what are you going to do with those words? They pertain to the journey, early in the journey, and what gets started early in the journey carries out throughout the whole journey. So I'm going to tell you what I experienced and what I saw between myself and my twin, because it's a learning thing for you. How biased are our perspectives when we see anything at any time, then, between, and now? Because it's only what you have up here that you have sitting right here to work with, that your reality comes in and it gets filtered through and back out through whatever you have going at the time. And what you've got going at the time that you met your twin was everything that you had had up until then, which, according to looking back on your journey, it's an awful lot of distortion. We didn't think so, though. I didn't think so. I was really proud of myself for the work I'd done, for the things that I had accomplished, for where I had gotten to even just months before it. Just a second. And, sorry, it was unbalanced, the tripod. I had gotten to a place where I had accomplished something just 5 months before meeting my twin, and it was setting me up for the next to meet him, and I'll tell you about that at a later date. Now, I thought I was normal. I thought I was going forward. I was feeling joy again. I was going forward with that. In comes he to sweep that away. But it was all part of a pattern that had been happening all through my life. But because you think you're normal, you're thinking from your head, and your head only has what you have accumulated along the way. If you stepped in, I've always wanted to do this. If we could hook ourselves up to some kind of a beanie with all these wires and step into someone else's reality inside their head and see the world through their eyes, it would probably be a shock to our system, because it wouldn't be the way that our system was used to working. So I thought I was doing really well. And I was. I was kicking ass on things all through my life of conquering the themes of my twin flame journey without even knowing I was on it. I had so many breadcrumbs, though. Oh my God. They were all over the place, and they'll come up all through my videos as I remember them as I'm talking. But you think you're normal. You get activated by that energy, whatever it is. It was, for me, it was when our eyes met. We were both looking down and we both looked up. And I will go into that, but I'm not sure how deep I'm going to go into that, because I'd really like him to be the first to hear this. But you get activated by an energy that is so powerful. It's so powerful. It wipes out everything inside you, everything. You're left standing with no concept of that other that you were is way over there, somewhere back there, and there's a new you standing there. That's the 5D self standing there. And I was absolutely blown away and sure and confused at the same time, because it all happens in a billionth of a second. A million things happen. The world goes away, and there's only the two of you in your energy, and then the world comes back. In that energy, it is so amplified. It's off the charts. It's unlike anything. I can't find human words to describe it. What it does to your body is it's electromagnetic energy, just like our heart has. Our heart radiates electromagnetic energy. It goes into your system. It's like being hit with a bolt of lightning. It goes into every atom, every electron, and boom, they are, I don't know if it doesn't cleanse. It might blow things out. I don't know, because I felt every atom in my body was dancing. It was doing a dance of joy that I have never known before. But that energy is so powerful that it goes through and it grips your nervous system and lifts it. That's that bliss stage. You are up on 5D. You are up on universal unity level. And then it doesn't drop, but it's the old beliefs that are in the way, because that, in order to channel that energy up through you, through your chakras and up through you in a healthy way and up to source, it has to have a clear passage. If it's running into roadblocks and beaver dams and blockages of pointing fingers and, blame, shame, fear and all that, it doesn't have a chance. It hasn't been able to in the history of humanity until now, anyway. Hold on. Got my Mickey mug for 4:30 in the morning. Anyway, it's so strong, and it takes you, that amplification doesn't just amplify the 5D, it amplifies the 3D. So when it hits those blockages in that, let's go with my sample. It took 2 weeks. We met. There were some interactions with a lot of other people around at all times, so we didn't have privacy of speaking or interacting. It was always influenced by a big group of people that were his people. I knew no one. It was amplified in the 5D. I was running on the 5D. I was up there, man. I was up there. I just was so effed up, though, because things were happening to my body physically that were reacting to his presence that I would never react like that to a person, never mind a guy that I just met. I was thinking thoughts that I would never think of a person. It was, I have a rational mind. I know when I meet a man, and I know when there's attraction from my side. I can always read when it's from their side too. I know when it's an attraction from my side, but I talk to myself and I think, he's pretty hot. Wonder if he's married. Well, don't see any signs of it. You think thoughts like that. You work through it. Well, there was no working through it. I was yours, and that's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm yours, yours mine. Where do we go from here? And it was up there. I couldn't even reach the bottom of that energy and pull it down to use my mind. I was on heart, only heart. So you're amplified so high on that, though, that you act in ways that are not like you previous. Like I said, we worked through from our mind before, when our mind was distorted from past conclusions we had gone through life, and our perspective was warped. So when you meet and that energy is so amplified, you fill in the blanks on things, everything. You fill in, if because your 5D energy wants so badly for it to be in 5D to fulfill that energy, you cannot wrap your head around if something happens that it doesn't go down in the 5D interpretation that you think it should. And there is no should. It's simply happening according to yours and theirs, because there's always two perspectives. Your perspective was bliss, must have, you are the source, I want it. Their perspective might have been that briefly, but something happens where it shifts the energy between you, and they start to pull their energy back not because of you or anything you're doing or have said. It's because of their natural, the components of who they have created of themselves from their past, from their childhood, from survival techniques, from managing their emotions, from managing their thoughts, and it goes on, and it's so deep, and it goes on for so long in their life up until whatever age it was that you met. It's not anything to do with you. Their perspective makes them act that way and react to yours. Your perspective makes you act and react that way. I reacted first. Something he said didn't offend me. It made me pull my energy back, though. I felt his energy push me away. I felt it. It was like we had been talking like this. We had been talking with each email we sent. We pulled each other slightly closer. And then I said one thing and asked something where he answered in a way that was appropriate for his group. But it felt to me that he had pushed my energy away violently, because I had invited him into my world, not physically, but through the interactions, my energy was inviting him in, and he denied that in one email without it being offensive, but he offered no explanation. That was where it faulted, because he said something flippant, but offered no explanation, and I filled in the blanks with hurt. And I felt him push me away with his comment, and I pushed him away with my energy. No, I responded to him very rationally first and said, I understand. I understand your perspective, basically. I went away for a whole day and thought about it before sending that, got my energy and my emotions under control, and then sent him, I understand your perspective. I agree. And then he supplied the information, and then, because he supplied the information late, I was pissed. Why didn't you say that in the email before? Blah, 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 blah. And this was me going off in my head. And then I pushed him away by sending a rebuke that, why couldn't you have said that in the first one? And then the shit show started. So that was all it took. And it wasn't because of him saying something or me saying something or doing. It was because of the core wounds in us coming up. We had hit a point where we were doing the back and forth conversation. It was all going great, so long as it's all going great. But the minute one said a slight thing, the other one, me, read something into it and responded with my interpretation of what he had said, and he responded back with an interpretation of how he read what I said, and it started. And that's how it starts. That's how it starts with anyone. You can have this happen with your brother or the guy at the grocery store, or, in traffic, somebody sitting beside you, a person walking in front of you on the sidewalk. You can have misinterpretations like that, because it's what's the scenario that you're carrying around as you're walking down that sidewalk. And that's what it is. We are so biased because what we're carrying around at all times is a compilation of the your childhood. You can't be a twin flame without having had some. You didn't have a glorious childhood living in a mansion. All your needs were met, and you were emotionally and physically safe and nurtured and wonderful parents, and everything was good, because then what would you be here to heal? You would have nothing in you. The twin flames that I have noticed and myself went through hell as children for, I don't know as to whether there wasn't physical abuse in our family, but there was emotional neglect, like to the max, because my parents were both severely dealing with, and I forgave them even back then. They were dealing with a whole different era and situations, and that's the generational trauma marching down through the generations. They inherited, let's put it this way. My dad was in the Navy in Canada. We moved a lot at first. I was 6 months old when we moved the last time, but I heard we moved before that. We he he was an alcoholic. He was an avoidant, which goes hand in hand usually. And there was severe dysfunctions in that, and he had inherited that through his bloodline. All of his family, it was from back east in Canada, and everybody drank in their family. It was a drinking family. It was the era of drinking. There was no awareness. That's the one thing that helped me get to forgiveness for both of them for the things that they did, because they grew up in an era that was not like mine and not like now. It's the awareness has, I've lived long enough from then till now to have seen the changes go through life. I remember when the word recycling didn't exist. You just threw everything in the garbage, or you threw it out the window of the car as you were driving. There was, the world has changed. Anyway, they grew up in an era that was, the main things that I see that I can really pinpoint fast was the drinking was expected. It was part and process. You didn't find families where there wasn't drinking going on. There might have been, but I wasn't coming in contact with them because our family always lived in an area where that was going on. Women would be at parties at 9 months pregnant, smoking and drinking, getting drunk, smoking like crazy. Everyone went to bars, women pregnant, whatever, went to a bar, and there'd be a 2-foot ceiling of cigarette smoke in there that you were breathing all the time. And even if you didn't smoke, you were getting secondhand smoke, but there was no such thing as secondhand smoke then. No one knew about it. So the things that were good, it's just unbelievable what they were enduring for hardship. There was no real jobs. My father had to bounce from job to job. Sometimes he lost his job because of his drinking, but it was hard to find a job, and I know that was for most people. And in their era, they had this all come down through the hoop, where there was, I think it was like in the back of their psyche, there wasn't much hope. It was struggle. We were so poor. It's sad, very sad for the things that when you grow up in poverty. We had 8 kids in the family, by the way. And my mom, after we split, I was 6 years old when we split. After that, my mom was raising us on welfare because my dad wasn't giving much. So we were even poorer. So that's the base of my story early. And then the growing up with all that poverty around me and the shame of this and the shame of that and these are underlying things that were in the background of me. I didn't know I had shame in my life. I didn't know that I had fear of safety. I didn't know that I felt unstable. I didn't know that I had somebody that was teaching me a lack of commitment and showing up for me and fortifying the things that a young child needs to have fortified in them in order to grow up and be a healthy adult. Ours being shown some really dysfunctional ways of relating with the fights and the struggles, and I don't even remember a lot of it. I don't, because I think my mom's left my dad when I was 7 or 8, and I don't remember that. I started to remember from there on in, but it was all there. It was already in me. So I carried those things, that little satchel of dysfunctions and miscommunications of my mind and survival modes that I created way back then. I carried that satchel over here and put it on my back at all times. I went through the world like this, defending myself from everything. My guards were up. I didn't really know that until uh, just before, about a year before I met my twin. So about 6 years ago, I started really seeing that, because I was seeing how I was reacting to my family, who were uber dysfunctional. So I started identifying myself then, but I had barely scratched the surface of where I was going to go with identifying things in myself. But fast forward with that package that I was carrying, when I got amplified by my twin, all that came up without me asking it to, because before I used to use my mind. If something came up and I felt a trigger from somebody, I would step back from it. When I was really young, I didn't. I prided myself on how I could take somebody out with my words. Well, over time, I started to step back from things and give myself a little bit of breathing time to think about it. And I got better and better at that. And I was doing really well with that, where I wasn't reacting, I was responding. But when I got amplified, that went out the window. I went back to react mode. It was my core wound coming up and sitting right here and saying, hi, 5D can't come down till you deal with this. And it wasn't until after we separated and went our separate ways that I started to see that. I started to realize that there was, that energy was still running rampant in me, so it was hard to see any one thing and put it into a label or make sense, but I'd get glimpses of it where the realizations that it's me and how I saw it, that I started that, but his came up and balanced mine. That tennis match of volleying the core wound back and forth between us. It was crazy. It was so out of control, and yet it was so minor, the things that we were reacting to. They were little things, but we weren't capable of handling it as a little thing. It was a huge thing. Each one of us, it was a huge thing. And so it was a mess. We separated. He stopped responding to me, and I stopped sending, and I knew in me that 5D part came down and sat on my shoulder and said, this is it. And I remember these words in myself, and inside me, they settled inside me, where I sent my final long letter explaining that we had filled in the blanks wrongly, and that I felt that if we could exchange words, we would be able to clear this up and go forward without this energy staying within us. I spoke like that back then. It fell on deaf ears because he wasn't able to hear those words yet. But I had that 5D self come and sit on my shoulder and say, this is where it ends. You've said your part, now you leave it and you go forward. I didn't know what that meant. I felt it so strong inside me, but I didn't know what that meant. I knew I had to do that because it was the right thing to do, and I did it. I walked away and left it as is, thinking that it wouldn't take long, and it did. So I had stuff to process. I was thinking I was walking away and he would eventually respond, not knowing that the whole intention was to focus on me. And I did. And I know that during that time, because I was still so screwed up, I didn't see him again for 2.5 years. We ran into each other briefly. But during that 2.5 years, I made great strides. I was by no means out of the woods, because the minute that I saw his motorcycle outside of a place, I was flame on with the energy again. I knew it was his, or at least I felt it. I felt his energy all around it. There's a million bikes that look like his, but it was his in my mind, and I knew it. And I marched in there and we did it again. So I hadn't gotten to a place where I could hold his energy and be near him without my energy coming up. I didn't do anything inappropriate in that brief meeting, but my energy came up, and it was not rock solid yet. It's our energy having the conversation. He and I talked briefly, but it was, our energy was fighting. Our energy was down here fighting while he and I were talking up here, and it was not good. But after I walked away, I looked back on that one and dissected it and said, okay, well, this is where you are now. That was a breadcrumb trail that's telling you where you're at and what you're to do. And when I walked away, I took my energy with me, and I started to bring in, without knowing it, I had brought my feminine energy back to me that was out there searching. And now I started to integrate, by bringing it back and putting it back inside me, I was integrating my masculine, because I brought, not that masculine, my own masculine energy, because I had brought it back in within myself, my feminine. My masculine showed up to protect it. And because I had in my head that 5D self was sitting on my shoulder once again, the minute I brought my energy back, said, protect your energy. And that went on for a long time. It got stronger and stronger as I went, and more integrated in me. And that phrase has never left me. Protect your energy. I don't have to think about it anymore. My energy is protected. My masculine energy is in there. Someone can't get to me. I've had situations come up as tests, because I always ask for tests as I go out into the public sphere. I ask to have a test thrown, and I'll have something, and sometimes it's not till later when I'm coming home that I realize, oh, that was a test. Well, you did so well, you didn't even notice it. And other times it's in the moment. I'm going, here's a test. And I handle it different, because I've had so many dry runs in my head as through the healing process goes. You try out different scenarios in your head, and you think, I'm going to do it this way next time. I'm going to do it this way, because a part of you is saying, I can't do it that other way anymore. I absolutely cannot. I have to do it this way now. And so the next time you try it, and you do better. You might not be totally successful, but you will be better. So anyway, the point of this is at every minute of your life, you're working on from the perspective here. Go back, and you've all had that time frame, whether it was, for me, 2 weeks, it could be just a meeting of the minds, or a meeting in, it could be just minutes, or it could be online, or it could be anything that triggers you. But go back to the triggering up until the separation started, and take a good hard look at that, at what your perspective was then and what it is now, and you'll know how far you've come and how far you have to go still to get to unconditionally loving someone without expecting them to do this back or bring this back and give an apology and whatever. In the beginning, yes, I saw our scenario for what it was. There were some real unkind things done, that he was influenced by other people. And I pointed fingers, and I was mad. I was really mad because I was insulted that somebody would treat me like that, but someone didn't treat me like that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find out in the end that someone didn't, but my core wound told me they did, and I was running with that. So the pointing fingers, the blame, the accusations, those blanks that are there that you don't know the answer to, be really careful about filling in those blanks with your perspective because it was warped back then. Take another look at that blank and change it. Fill in some other words that he did this because, not because he's a narcissist, not because he's an asshole, not because of this. Fill in that blank with he did this or she did this because she had had many situations happen in her childhood where she was severely hurt, neglected, ignored. She or he created survival methods, and when they got hit with that same amplified energy, that rose up for them. And you'll find that you can turn around and look at their situation with a hell of a lot of compassion because you needed compassion for yours. You can see that now once you get past it and the energy gets integrated in you, your whole nervous system calms down, and you can then use your mind to see, and your heart sees by then too. But go back and really do some analyzing. Fill in those blanks differently. Fill in the story differently because it's not the way that you think it was. And it's not the way it should be either. So you hanging on to a story that is wrong is wrong. There is no wrong, but it's not the story that you need to tell. You need to tell yourself, this person reacted like that. I love them anyway. I love them anyway. And that's where it ends. I don't love them anyway because they're going to come back. I don't love them anyway because then I'll get an apology. I don't love them anyway because anything about my life is going to change. I'm still going to go on sitting in my living room watching TV and going out and getting groceries and walking a dog if you have one. But I love them anyway because why would you not? Why would you not? Why would you hang on to that stuff inside you when you have a choice of taking this whole part inside you and taking it out, throwing it away, and replacing it with love? It's going to make your dog walks better. It's going to make everything better. And don't hang up your hat on loving them either. Love everybody. Love, when you go out, I just love the cashiers in grocery stores. You're going to hear me say this in every video. They are angels on the front line. You go into a store and no matter what you're carrying, if you reach out to them, they are a mirror. You watch. If you give them grumpy, they will shut down and they will ring your stuff through and they'll be looking at you like, get a grip, lady. You come through, and I usually, when I'm going through, I'm bowling them over with my enthusiasm and joy for life, and they come out of their shell and they start sharing things that they probably shouldn't share as a cashier, but they just open right up, and you can do that. You can zip that zipper down in people or zip it back up because of who you are. So take a look at what's going on inside of yourself. Don't focus on the masculine in your life. They're working their things out. They're doing their things, but take a look at your everyday. Like today, go out into your world. Maybe you're working. God forbid. I hope you're not. But go out and do things in your world and carry this blank. My day is going to be blank. I'm going to have blank. I'm going to do blank, and I'm going to meet blank. And put in some really, really cool stuff in those blanks. You're going to find that even if it's not momentous what happens and you come home, you're going to come home lighter. And you had fun. You had fun giving out those things to people. So I guess my point is the perspective you have is what the perspective you'll create. And back when you went, this is probably going to affect people who are in that position of going through the newly amplified energy or still processing it. Realize that's not who you are. When you're amplified, that's not who you are. You're having that come up to see it and to deal with it, and you will, and time will pass. I can tell you this because I never thought it would. Time will pass, you will process it. The faster, then the more attention you pay to it, the more mindful you are, and the more you are proactive in your own healing and unprogramming, the better. But even still, time will pass, you will pass through it, and you will come to a really nice, calm, peaceful, serene place. You will have those distortions removed. They'll be replaced with goodness, and you will be sitting in a place where you look forward to your days. I'm in Canada right now, and it's middle of February. It's 3 degrees outside. It's cold. I'm spending almost all of my time in the house. I don't care. I'm just going around in circles doing this, puttering that, puttering this, puttering that. And that's not like me, because I used to be so heavily into do mode and renovating houses and such. I didn't, I was alone all that time. I was still alone, but I was in do mode. My brain was going a million miles, and I was planning this. I had plans for 10 years down the road at all times. And as time went forward, that 10-year plans, I don't have plans for the end of the day anymore. I just plan to experience my day, and I see what comes back, because in experience the mundane, you have some of the biggest tests and the biggest growth that you can have, because you might be going along where I'm walking down, and here's the grocery store again. I'm walking down the aisle in the grocery store, and I ask one of the teller or the guys stocking the shelves a question, and he turns around and he answers in a way, or he says one extra sentence that has an impact on me. And I take that away and go, thank you for that little gem. That was good. You know, and you go home and you've shifted. The shifts are amazing. Okay, I better get going. I need my coffee, and I need something to eat now. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm hungry. Okay, take a look at your biases. And for right now, I mean, that explains back then. How about right now? Where are you still running from a perspective that comes forward as soon as you need it? It's all great and fine when you're at home all alone in your living room all the time, or whatever way that you're isolated. And we do get isolated on this when we're in processing mode, which is a good thing, because you don't need the distractions. Check and see how you're doing when you come up against situations, and how just take assessment of yourself, not with blame or judgment, just I could use a little more work over there. Okay, let's do a little more work over there. Let's fill in the blank on that one. Let's say that scenario, I need a little more work, so let's do this. And then make a point of going out that day and going out and trying that new hat on. Throw it out there and see how it works. Keep throwing it out there until it works the way you want it to work. And then move it up a notch, and then another notch. Because as soon as you think that you know it all on this journey, you get humbled that there's so much more around the corner. I'm having a lot of fun with it now, though. I'm not so worried about what's going on those deep levels, esoteric levels, the 5D level. I'm really looking around. I've got great joy every morning getting up before the sun comes up. Not this early as a rule, but I feed the squirrels. I have 5 squirrels that come to my deck, and seems like every bird in the neighborhood. And I have a big tarp laid out there because no cats or anything can get up onto my deck. It's raised. So I have a little sanctuary up there. And I come up, I'll get up and it's daylight, and they're all out there on the railing looking at their watch and going, "You're late, lady. Where you been?" Because I'm almost always put them out at 9 a.m. So they've gotten used to that. Birds and squirrels and other animals, they know how to tell time. They know what's going on. And I go out there and I feed them and they all come down, and it's amazing because I'll be putting the seed down on the tarp and the little birds are landing, and it's like they don't care that I'm there. The squirrels come up and take the peanuts from my hands. It's been a while to get them to that point, but they don't care either. I'm no longer a threat. So become a non-threat to your twin and to everyone else. Lead with your heart. You got nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain. Stop guarding it. Give it out. It's currency in this world. Your heart energy. It's currency. Spend it, and spend it widely. I'm going to go. I want my coffee. Okay. Good luck with this. I hope it helps somebody. Do a little review and fill in those blanks. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.